So today I'm going to show you how to make a macrame belt. So you start by getting yourself some twine or some colorful cording. I'm just using some plain jute. Then you want to get something to wrap your strings around. It's just a piece of plumbing pipe. So you take one of your strings, fold it in half, lay it underneath the pipe, and then bring the loose ends up through the loop so that it's fixed around the pipe. Then you take another string, bend it in half, and pull the loose ends right up through the loop and pull it up tight. And then you want to do that until you have enough strings all the way across. I use 8 strings, so I got 16 hanging down. So to actually knot it, just take the first 4 strings and separate those out. The right hand of the 4, just move up out of the way. Then take the left hand one, cross it across the middle 2, and then pull that right hand one back down, and then slip the underneath the other 2, so that your outside strings are on opposite sides now. And then you're just going to tie those in a knot over the top of the other 2 strings. So just tie those in a regular square knot right over the top of the other 2 strings. And then you just want to pull that up, keep sliding it toward the top so that it's nice and tight against the pipe, or whatever it is that you're wrapping your strings around. And so then you do the same thing, taking the next group of 4 strings, move the right hand one up out of the way, take the left hand string, slide it across, pull the right hand string back down, and slide it under the other 2. And then take both those outside strings and just tie them in a knot over the top of the other 2, the top side of the other 2, and then just tie that up tight against the pipe. And then you'll just keep going until you've got all your knots all the way across there. So for the second row, the 2 outside strings, you're just going to move those out of the way. You're not going to use them in this row. So you're going to take the next 4 strings, which basically means that you've got 2 strings, a set of 2 strings from each of the 2 knots above it to make your 4. And to tie the actual knot, you just do it the same way. Move the right hand string out of the way, take the left hand string, cross it over the other 2, pull the right hand string back down, and slip it under the other 2. Make sure your strings are nice and tight up toward the other 2 knots from the previous row. And then again, just tie it in a square knot over the top of the other 2 strings. And make sure that's nice and tight against the other 2 knots. So this knot will be in between the 2 from the previous row. So then you just take the next 4 strings, and you just keep going until you have 3 knots on that row. And so then for the 3rd row, you'll end up using the outside strings this time. So it'd be the 4 outside strings. Same thing, move up the right hand string, pull the left one over the other 2, right hand string back down and slip it under the other 2, and then just tie them in a square knot over the top of the other 2 strings. So the 2 outside ones get tied in the knot over the top of the other 2 strings. So basically each row, your knots end up in between 2 of the knots from the previous row. So your knots are always off kilter with each other. And the knotting looks different on the back and on the front side, so you can just kind of decide which you like the best once you're done with it. When you get to a point where one of your strings is too short, just take another piece of string and tie it onto it, and then cut off the ends fairly close to the knot. That way you've got a brand new nice long string to keep doing your macrame with. And you just tie that right in just like you would, pretending the knot's not even there, and it will get hidden by the other knots. So just do one of your regular macrame knots. Just go right around the knot, pretending it's not even there. And then you won't really even notice it because it'll be tied in with all the other knots. So you can barely see a few of them sticking out here one on this side, but you barely notice it because of all the other knots. So when you get it as long as you want the belt, just cut off the ends of the string. I left mine quite long because I wanted a long fringe. And then on the upper side, you can either slide the ends off of whatever you tied them around, but in my case, I'm just going to cut the original loops that I used to tie it onto the pipe with. Just going to clip those off one by one. And that will give me a fairly decent fringe on that end of the macrame belt. And so then a company called BeeBeeCraft sent me a few of these colorful little mandala beads to try. So I thought they'd look good on this. So I just took one and put one every few inches and just ran a piece of thread through the hole and tied that off onto the belt. You want to use strong thread for this. And again, I just put one of those every few inches. They made a nice colorful addition. So to fasten the belt, you just put it around your waist, and then the fringed end you'll separate out and just tie that around the other end of the belt. And basically just kind of a loose knot. That way you'll be able to wear it. It'll be adjustable. Now if you want to wear it with jeans, then you can't do the beads, otherwise it won't fit through the loops. But if you just want to wear it with a dress or a skirt, then it's perfect.